All right, today we have a 2012 Honda Accord, and this is the 2.4 cylinder. All right, so today we are changing the upper and the lower catalytic converters on this vehicle. And this is what your part should look like. This is what your upper catalytic converter should look like. And this is what your lower catalytic converter should look like. And these are the gaskets that go with the upper catalytic converter. And this is what they look like. This one here goes up top and this one here goes down low. The rear catalytic converter, also known as the lower catalytic converter. So this is the gasket here that goes on this 3-bolt flange, and there's 3 bolts. And this is the gasket here that goes on this 3-bolt flange, and here are the 3 bolts for that flange. So really important. I had to put this part of the video in the beginning so you can see this ahead of time before you make the same mistake I made. So this is the old part and this is the new part. You can see there's a concave part here that's meant for this type of gasket, and then there's just a flat surface here that's meant for this type of gasket. So the old one that came off had this, so I went and I bought this because I thought I needed this, but I actually needed this because a new one wasn't going to work with this. However, you still may need one of these because on the other side, this side is flat, but on the side that it goes to has a indent just like this that it goes on. So I'm still going to need one. So this is the new part. So this one here, even though it's flat here, this goes into the other mating surface that this mates to, and then this one here goes on top of there. So it's like that, and this is the new one. But like I said, if your new one looks like this, then you need 2 of these, one for the top and one for the bottom. So make sure what flange you have before you buy your gaskets, if yours didn't come with gaskets. So the upper catalytic converter is located right here on top. You can see where the O2 sensor is. It goes right in on top of the converter. So there it is there. So here's a converter that goes down here. We're underneath the car now, and you can see the other flange. So this is the bottom flange for it here. And there are 3 connections. So there's 2 connections for the flange itself. There's a connection here and a connection here, and that will undo the flange. But you can see there's a bolt here that holds it to this mount. So you have to remove that bolt to remove this flange from that mount in order to get this flange off and this converter changed. What we're going to do is we're going to take a wire brush while we're down here, and we're going to clean all of our threads. And then we're going to take some penetrating oil and we're going to spray all of our bolts and everything and let it sit for a couple of hours before we get those off. So this is the front catalytic converter. Right down back here is the rear catalytic converter. So this is the catalytic converter that's further downstream right here. And you can see there's 2 connections for it. There's this connection right here, and there's 3 bolts there's 3 bolts total. There's a nut on the back side of these bolts, and the nuts are what we have to remove. And once the nuts are off, we can slip those bolts out of there. So on the other side here, there's also 3 connections. You can see there's 3 bolts with nuts on there. Get all the rust off before we try to get these out. We're gonna spray these to make sure that when we come back in a couple of hours, these come off easily and we don't get any broken bolts or studs. So I'm gonna do the same thing for this one, but I'm gonna spray these ones here as well. So these are 14 millimeters here on most of these. Now I noticed there's a couple of 15 millimeters because they're replacements, but for the most part they should be 14 millimeter. And let's hope for the best. So that's turning there, so that's good. So if this was spinning, I would have had to use a wrench to hold this side here so it could stop spinning, but I was able to get that off. So I'm gonna get the other 3 off the same way. So I'm just gonna hang 1 screw up there to hold it in place while I get this side off. All right, so simple, just like that. We have the old one out now. As far as the upper catalytic converter, we're going to start to get this off from the bottom. So I'm going to remove these 2 nuts here. There's a nut right here on the bottom and another one right there, real easy. And then I'm going to remove this bolt, and that's simply it. That's going to be how to remove the connections from the bottom. Okay, so these are 11 millimeters to get off of here. And of course it's spinning in the back a little bit, so I'm going to use a wrench to hold that while I get this off. And I'm going to just go ahead and knock this one out as well. All right, so I was able to get this flange off of here by removing those 2 10 millimeters. And now I can get this off of here. All right, so the bottom of this flange is now free. So now we can go back up top and work on that. So the first one, the upstream, is located right here. So you can see it clear as day. You can see there's 2 parts to remove. There's the main O2 sensor itself right here. But of course, there's the plug for it right there. So the plug itself is really easy to remove. Okay, so I have my special socket on here. You can see this is a special O2 sensor socket. I'm gonna get this right on the top of here. And now I'm gonna turn this counterclockwise to get it loose. So just like that, you can see it's loose. You can see it's loose. We can take this up now. You can remove this finish removing it by hand. And get that out of there. All right, so the second one is located down here on the side. In order to reach it, it's best to remove this tire here. And then again, this is on the passenger side. So, and you can see it right there, clear as day, and the harness plug for it there. So once you get that harness plug off right there, you just squeeze that tab and release it. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this harness plug off now. So now I'm underneath. I'm gonna try to use a regular 22 millimeter wrench and get that on there, and hopefully that can get the job done. I think it turned. Yeah, it turned. So the wrench, the 22 millimeter wrench from underneath, got it to turn. All we have to do up here now is remove these 2 bolts right here at the top, and then this bolt right here. Okay, so now with this shield off, we can clearly see the nuts. So there's 2 nuts on top and then 2 nuts on the bottom. So let's go ahead and get all 4 of those off, and then this should be completely loose. All right, so I have all 4 of these nuts off now. So you can see that it's loose. So just pull that right off like that. And we can lower that down easily to the bottom. All right, so this is the old part here, and you can see it has so this one has a gasket on the flange, so we have to make sure we put our new gasket in the same exact place. All right, so now that we got this old one out, we can see what it looks like in comparison to the new one. So it is a little different. This one here looks a little bit more bulky, but it's really just the heat shield. If you turn it over, you will see that they're really the same size on the inside. So the heat shield on this one, on the new one, is welded, and this one is bolted, but this one can't fit on this one anyways. So there's no reason to remove this one. And if you look down here at this flange, this is the old gasket here, and this is our new flange gasket that goes on to this new one. And this is the old gasket that goes up top, and this is our new gasket that goes top in our new one. So I'm gonna get ready to start putting this one in, but first I'm going to clean up some surfaces. So on the back side of here, so I'm going to clean up on the back side of here where the top bolts up to, just to make sure that everything goes back on nice and smooth. And then I'm going to clean up that flange right down in there, but I'm not going to try to do too much. I don't want anything getting down in there, so I'm just going to do a little bit of cleaning on the outside to make sure that we have a good seal. All right, so we can see this is not tight at all. I barely have this up there. So I just put the gasket on there first. Then I went from beneath and put this in from beneath. And so remember, at the bottom where that little anchor point is, you have to put that on top of that bracket. And then you set these. So don't try to set these and then set the bottom. You want to set the bottom on that bracket first, then you set this up here. And so now I have these nuts on here, but they're not tight. So what I'm gonna do is, before I tighten these all the way down, I'm gonna go to the bottom and get the bottom situated. So since I can move this around here, I'm gonna just drop this right in there and get that up there together like that. So the new part is threaded, so I can just get the bolt to go and thread straight into there versus getting the nut to fit in the back like they had it rigged up in the beginning. So all you need is the regular, if you have the regular bolt that came out, then you're fine. But if not, then you have to go get the right bolt for it like I did. So I got the right bolts on both sides now. So I got the gasket in there. I'm gonna go ahead and tighten it down a little more and until I get a nice seal. And then I'm gonna go back up top and finish the top. All right, so now that we have the bottom straightened up down there, we're back up top. Remember, we already have the nuts on here now, so only thing we have to do is finish tightening them up now that we have the bottom tightened down. So if we were to tighten this up here first, then it would be hard to get the bottom lined up. But now that the bottom is lined up and all the way tightened down, and that gasket at the bottom is pressed, we can go ahead and tighten these 4 nuts down now. And we want to do the same thing, kind of do them evenly. Don't tighten one down all the way. Tighten it down halfway and then go across to the other side. Tighten that halfway and then tighten this one halfway. Go across to the other side, tighten that halfway. And then you can come back around the same sequence and tighten some more. Then go back over there, same thing. Just keep going until you get them all the way tightened down. But you want to tighten down a little bit at a time. All right, so I have these all the way tight now, and I have a good seal. It's very important. You do not want to tighten these too much. You do not want to break these studs off of here. Otherwise, you may have a hard time getting these out. So now that the top is tightened and the bottom is tightened, we can get our cover back on here. All right, so before we install our new part, let's get these gasket surfaces cleaned up. I'm gonna use a regular wire brush and clean up inside of these concave areas and the flat surfaces as well. So this one here goes down on here like that, and then the triangle gasket goes on there like that. So I'm going to need 2 hands to get this up. It's going to be real simple. I'm going to get it up the same way I got the old one down. So I'll put these bolts in real quick and be right back. All right, so this is what it should look like once it's all done. The gasket is pressed in place right here, that small thin gasket, and then the triangle gasket is pressed in place here. And there was no shield that goes on here, so this is technically done. All right, so since we have the bottom and the top completely done, we have to put our O2 sensors back in now. All right, so we're gonna start off with the top one. So of course this is the upstream sensor that we're getting ready to put in now, right here upstream. It looks just like the one that we took out. So we're gonna get that started by hand first. I'm gonna get my O2 sensor socket and put it over there, the same one we used to get it out. And now I can go ahead and tighten this up. All right, so now that that's tight, we can put our harness in down here. Let's put this piece in here first on this little metal part. And then that way, when we try to put this on, it doesn't push back and we can get it on with one hand. So there goes the cord for that there. All right, so I'm getting ready to put the number 2 downstream sensor in now. Remember, we got it from down here. So I don't have to go from the bottom to put this in. I only have to go to the bottom to use a wrench because it was hard to get out. But getting it in is going to be different. So I'm going to reach right in here from the side and get this in by hand first. All right, so I got that in by hand as best as I can get it. So now I can get to use my O2 sensor socket now and reach in there. All right, so I have my ratchet and socket on here. So I'm going to go ahead and start tightening this O2 sensor down now. All right, so that is nice and tight. So let me get my plug and I'm going to plug this right back in right here. Just like that. All right, let's get this tire back on here. All right, let's get this battery reconnected, and that is it. That is how you change your upper and lower catalytic converter on this vehicle.